For years, people have been talking AB tension between Prince William and his uncle, Prince Andrew. Whispers of strained relations grew louder, but nothing was ever confirmed. That all changed at a royal levant, where one unforgettable moment proved everything. In front, off cameras, and shocked people watching, Prince Andrew looked at Catherine, Princess of Wales, with a cold and harsh Death Star. And what happened next? Mad history. What exactly did he do? And why this moment rocked the royal family? Join us as we reveal the truth. The fight between Prince William and Prince Andrew. Sometimes to understand how serious an event is, it's best told from the start. And in this case, it goes back to something royal insiders said about a comment Prince Andrew once made about Catherine, the Princess of Wales. According to reports, their mark wasn't just casual. It was sharp, mean, and full of jealousy. Royal biographer Andrew Lunnion, his book, The Fall of the House of York, claimed that Andrew went after Catherine after Queen Elizabeth II's death. The timing made it even worse. While the family was supposed to camouflage her in unity, Andrew's words targeted Catherine at the very moment she had stepped into a bigger role. And here comes the shocking part. Stay with us. Looney also explained that Andrew seemed bitter about Catherine's rising status in the royal family. You see, for years, Catherine Middleton had become one of the most respected people in the monarchy. With her grace, discipline, and steady presence, many saw her as the saving grace of the royal family. Yet Andrew, instead of supporting her, reportedly made rude remarks behind the scenes. The book suggests he mocked her with jealousy at the heart of it. For Prince William, this wasn't just offensive, it was personal. Catherine is not only his wife, but also the woman he trusted to help him lead the monarchy into the future. To hear his uncle speak badly of her destroyed any remaining goodwill. From that moment, William began to distance himself from Andrew, and whatever bond they once shared was shattered beyond repair. But the story doesn't stop there. The fight between William and Andrew has been fueled by more than just one comment. It has been shaped by Andrew's long list of scandals, the weight of public opinion, and the struggle within the family over how to handle him. You see, before this comment on Kate, Prince Andrew was a respected figure. As the Queen's second son, he served with honor in the Royal Navy, even taking part in the Falklands War. For a while, he was so admired for his bravery and charm. But in later years, his reputation began to fall apart. The most damaging scandal came from his friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Photographs, friendships, and accusations created a storm of criticism that Andrew never escaped. A disastrous BBC interview in 2019 meant to clear his name only made things worse. His answers raised more questions than they solved. He denied wrongdoing, but offered no convincing explanation for his ties to Epstein. Public opinion turned sharply against them. In January 2022, the Queen stripped Andrew of his military titles and royal jobs. From then on, he was no longer allowed to use his Royal Highness in any official way. For a man who had built much of his identity on rank and privilege, this was a crushing blow. And yet, despite the scandal, Andrew reportedly hoped for a return to public life. He believed that over time, the public might forgive him. But William and Charles saw it differently. For them, Andrew's presence was a problem. His name was linked to scandal, and his reputation made it impossible to represent the crown with dignity. Royal insiders have suggested that William has grown more and more frustrated with his uncle over the years. He sees Andrew Simone, who holds on to privilege but refuses to take responsibility, while William has carefully built his image around duty and family values. Andrew's behavior has often stood in sharp contrast. The comment about Catherine felt like a final straw for William. Andrew's words revealed not only jealousy, but also a lack of respect for the role Catherine plays. She is not just his wife. She is the future queen consort. Any insult to her is basically an insult to William himself and to the monarchy's future. Sources close to the family have said that William decided keep Andrew at a distance. In private, he reportedly made it clear that Andrew would never return to their front line of royal duties as long as he had a say. When William eventually becomes king, Andrew will remain firmly outside the circle of working royals. But that's not all. King Charles, on the other hand, is currently facing one of the hardest tests of his reign. In the middle of all this, he stands as both brother and king, and those two roles do not always fit together. As Andrew's older brother, Charles still feels a personal bond. He has known Andrew since childhood, has seen his strengths and weaknesses. And there are moments when Nesla for him shows through. Behind the scenes, Charles has offered quiet support and checked in when Andrew has faced his lowest moments. One of those moments happened when King Charles gave Andrew money to help cover his U.S. settlement, showing that, despite the damage to the family's reputation, the personal bond between brothers has not completely disappeared. But as King Charles cannot escape the other side of the story, Andrew's scandals have brought lasting damage to the monarch's reputation. The crown is built on trust, and once that trust is shaken, it is sure to restore. Charles knows the public expects accountability, and he cannot ignore what Andrew represents: too many people, not loyalty, but disgrace. This is where Charles and Prince William sometimes find themselves at odds. Charles values family unity. He has lived through decades of division in his own household, and he believes the crown is stronger when family members are not pushed out completely. Because of that, he has leaned toward being lenient with Andrew, thinking there may be a way to balance loyalty with responsibility. William, however, sees the matter in far simpler terms. For him, Andrew Canotro, any attempt to bring him back into publicities would weaken the monarchy and invite fresh criticism. William believes the institution depends on trust, and Andrew has already lost that trust beyond repair. In William's view, there is no room for compromise. Reports say William has been furious whenever talk of Andrew's return has come up. Insiders describe heated discussions with William, making it clear that any softening toward his uncle would be unacceptable. He doesn't see this as personal revenge, but as necessary protection of the crown. The monarchy, in his mind, must look forward, and Andrew belongs firmly in the past. However, the differences between Charles and William have quietly shown themselves in public moments. At Catherine's Together at Christmas Carol service in 2024, Andrew and his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, were left off the guest list. Officially, it was presented as a simple matter of space and focus. But the message was understood by all who follow royal life. William and Catherine did not want Andrew included in an event built around unity, kindness, and trust. Then, at Easter 2025, Andrew went to a church service at Windsor. Cameras captured his arrival, but William and Catherine were not there. For some, it looked like a coincidence. For others, it felt in purpose. William was making a choice to stand beside his uncle in front of the nation. These small decisions, while subtle, build into something much bigger. Charles, as king, works constantly to balance family loyalty with his duty to the monarchy. William, as heir, is drawing a harder line for the future, making it clear what will and won't be tolerated. Yet some reports still suggest that Andrew may have held on to a small hope of redemption, especially after his comments about Catherine, Princess of Wales. But just as those rumors were spreading, Andrew went a step further, and what he did next has finally destroyed any chance he had of restoring us. Standing with the royal family, curious to find out what he did and why it changed everything. Keep watching Prince Andrew's stare at the Duchess of Kent funeral. It all started on the 16th of September, 2025, at the funeral of the Duchess of Kent. The day was calm, but heavy with sadness. Westminster Cathedral stood quietly in the early morning light, its stone walls showing the seriousness of the occasion. The streets nearby were lined with people who had come to pay their respects. Though the crowd was not as large as it had been for other royal funerals, still, the sense of loss and respect was clear in the faces of those gathered. But that solemn moment was disrupted by an act from Prince Andrew that left a very own frozen. Stay with us till the end of this video, because what happened next revealed the end of Prince Andrew's stay in the royal family. Inside the cathedral, everything was arranged with careful precision. Dark flower arrangements filled the aisles. They were chosen to be simple but elegant. The organ played soft notes as guests entered, their footsteps quiet on tall stone floors. The air smelled faintly of flowers and candle wax, carrying a sense of calm, but also of sadness. Among the people, there were members of the royal family. King Charles III sat at the front. Queen Camilla was absent from the funeral due to illness, leaving Princess Anne to sit nearby, her posture upright, her gaze steady. The service began with carefully chosen readings from the Bible, followed by hymns sung in harmony by the choir. Then came the Prince and Princess of Wales. William walked with his familiar calm, greeting those nearby with quiet respect. Catherine followed, graceful in a simple black coat dress and a hat with a short veil. The silence that fell over their room as they entered was a reminder of the presence and importance of the future queen. Together they moved with care, each step deliberate and measured. But the arrival that surprised everyone was that of Prince Andrew and Hisak's wife, Sarah Ferguson. You see, nobody expected them to be there because both Prince Andrew and Sarah stepped back from royal duties in 2019 and have been living a quiet life ever since, just like Prince Harry did in 2020. But despite their presence, these services went on as expected, with prayers, hymns, and moments of reflection. They even played the Duchess's favorite hymn, Ave Verum Corpus. Guests and family alike bowed their heads following the traditional rhythm of the ceremony. But what surprised everyone was that while most remained in quiet reflection, Andrew was seen staring at others, including Catherine Middleton, with a faint laugh in high sighs. This was not only disrespectful to the monarch, but also a moment of disrespect for the late Duchess, who had dedicated her life to the royal family yet. At that moment, everything seemed calm, respectful, and controlled. But all of that control began to fall apart as the service slowly drew to a close. Keep watching to find out what happened next. Because of the attitude that Andrew showed during the funeral, the tension was noticeable from early on. As service went on, he seemed to try to engage with several family members, leaning forward slightly, attempting smile gestures or words. Yet nobody really responded. Heads stayed bowed, eyes remained forward, and the usual polite nods or small smiles that might have greeted a distant relative were absent. It was clear that his presence was unwelcome, or at least that others were unwilling to encourage interaction. Sarah standing beside Keza Neoford, a quiet word or a smile, trying to ease the awkwardness, but it had little effect. The distance between Andrew and the rest of the family seemed to grow with each passing minute. Even when he attempted to whisper to a nearby cousin or offer a hand to shake, he was met with polite avoidance. It was quiet, subtle rejection, but in the context of the carefully planned funeral, it was noticeable. The sense of discomfort was almost real. The ceremony continued without disruption. Andrew's gaze drifted frequently, searching for any sign of acknowledgement, yet found none. High sighs at times stared a little too long at those around him, showing a mixture of surprise, frustration, and perhaps a desire to assert himself. And so, as the service neared its final moments, Andrew began to move slightly, positioning himself in a way that made it clear he was preparing to approach someone in particular. Hugs and public displays of affection. not something that I do." All his previous attempts to engage with Hothers had failed, but his actions showed that meeting this person was going to change everything. That person, of course, was Prince William. As the final hymn ended and the congregation began to rise for the closing prayers, Andrew moved closer to where William and Catherine were standing. His steps were small, deliberate, as though he was testing the ground with each movement. Sarah Ferguson followed just a pace behind, her face composed. But her eyes notice the unease already forming. William stood tall beside Catherine, his hands resting in front of him, his gaze affixed straight ahead. Catherine mirrored his calmness, her black veil slightly covering her face, giving her a quiet strength. Andrew, however, looked determined. He leaned a little toward William, as if he wanted to say something. But William gave him nothings. His face stayed firm. His eyes never moved. The message was clear without a word. William did not look at him. He did not nod. He gave nothing. Anyone close enough could see what was upon. Catherine stayed steady at William's side. She did not turn to Andrew, but her presence supported her husband's decision. It was clear she stood with William completely. Andrew shifted again, moving closer, perhaps hoping for even the smallest response, but it never came. William kept still and Catherine followed his lead. The silence was sharper than any spoken rejection. Those nearby felt the tension. It was rare to see such strain between senior royals in public, especially during a funeral. Yet in that quiet cathedral, the divide could not be missed. As the service ended, the coffin of the Duchess of Kent was carried slow down the aisle. The organ played its final notes, echoing through thick great stone arches. The royal family stood up and began their solemn walk behind the coffin. William placed a hand gently on Catherine's back, guiding her with calm confidence. Together, they moved in step, steady and united. Behind them, Andrew and Sarah Ferguson followed. This space between them was small, but the meaning was heavy. Observers noticed everything from the lack of onto the silence, and even the distance. All of it spoke louder than words. The split between uncle and nephew was on full display. But that was not all. After the funeral, many expected Andrew to leave quietly or even to offer an apology for his behavior. But to everyone's surprise, there was none. Instead, royal watchers spotted him later that day, leaving his home in a Range Rover, making his first public appearance since the funeral. This move sent shockwaves through royal circles. It wasn't just the silence that upset people. It was the combination of his attendance at the funeral, his lack of remorse, and his bold reappearance. The act struck many as disrespectful both to the late Duchess and to the traditions of the monarchy. Now, to understand how insulting Prince Andrew's actions were, we have to take a look at the type of person the Duchess was. So stay with us as we uncover the legacy she left behind, because through that, the entire story adds a new layer to exactly how this fight started. The legacy of the Duchess of Kent. Catherine Lucy Mary Worsley was born on the 22nd of February 1933 at Ovingham Hall in Yorkshire. Her family was part of the Old English upper class. They had land, tradition, and respect, but they were not royals. Life at Hovingham was close to nature and full of music. As a child, Catherine showed a gentle spirit. She loved playing piano and violin, and her teachers often said she had real talent. While other children dreamed of fame, Catherine found joy in simple things: long walks, music practice, and family dinners. That quiet nature never left her. Catherine Worsley went to Queen Margaret's School in York, where she worked hard and later studied to be a teacher in Oxford. Teaching was not just a career for her. It was a way to help children believe in them. Even at that young age, she wanted to make a difference. Will you love her, comfort her, honor, and keep her in sickness and in health? Her life changed forever in 1961. That year, she married Prince Edward, Duke of Kent, cousin of Queen Elizabeth II. Their wedding at York Minster was big news across the country. It was event-televised, making it the first royal wedding broadcast after the war. Catherine became the Duchess of Kent, stepping into a life of duty and tradition. At first, she did what always expected. She went to royal events, opened hospitals, and supported charities. But it soon became clear she was different from many other royals. She did not enjoy the spotlight. She was washy, humble, and preferred smaller gatherings where she could speak to people one-on-one. So she moved to some thing that she loved the most, and that was music and education. The Duchess of Kent often visited schools, sitting with children, asking about their dreams and encouraging them to try music. She was not the type of royal to give a quick speech and leave. She listened, she cared, and people remembered her warmth. One of the most important moments in the life of Catherine came in 1994 when she converted to Roman Catholicism. This was a big step. The royal family has been tied to the Church of England for centuries. For a senior royal to join the Catholic Church had not happened in over 400 years, but Catherine did it quietly. She did not make a scene or hold a press conference. She simply followed her heart, for her faith was personal, not political. And here comes the interesting part. 2 years later, in 1996, she made another surprising decision. Catherine stepped back from royal duties. But what was more shocking was that instead of traveling the world for events like others do, she went into classrooms in Hull, one of the poorer parts of England, and worked as a musician. There she was, not her royaliness. She was simply Mrs. Kent. Their children often did not know who she was. They only saw a kind woman, to believe every child could sing. She encouraged students to play instruments, and gave time to those who lacked confidence. She blended into school life so naturally that most parents had no idea their children were being taught by a duchess. In 2002, Catherine went even further. She stopped using her Royal Highness title. This was almost unheard of. Most royals hold in tightly to their styles and titles. Catherine gave hers up willingly. She wanted to live simply without the wedge of formality. Out of her teaching experience came one of her greatest achievements, the founding of Future Talent in 2004. This charity helped children from poor backgrounds, who had musical ability but no money for instruments or lessons. Many of the young people supported by Future Talent went on to become professional musicians. They often spoke about how Duchess believed in them when no one else did. Her work was not about fame. She rarely gave interviews. She did not try to appear glamorous. She worked quietly behind the scenes. Changing lives through small acts of kindness. However, her marriage to the Duke of Kent faced its own challenges. They grew apart over the years. A group of children before, let alone an entire school. But she never spoke badly about him. She remained loyal, always keeping her private life private. That discretion was part of what made her different. She also had a love for animals, especially litters. Friends recalled how she found comfort in their company, enjoying their loyalty and simplicity. For someone who had lived inside the complexities of the royal family, the love of pets gave her peace. What made the Duchess of Kent stand out was not scandal, but the complete lack of it. At a time when the royal family often found itself in trouble, affairs, divorces, public fights, she never caused embarrassment. Instead, she showed another way to live as a royal, with humility and service. Now this is where it becomes very clear. Keep watching for more. The difference between the Duchess of Kent and Prince Andrew could not be more striking. I couldn't really answer because I was nervous at that time. Then I realized that music is so much more popular than football. She chose humility over privilege. stepping away from HRH titles and royal duties to live quietly and teach music in hall. She walked away from power and status, and yet earned respect that never left her. Andrew did the opposite. He clung to his position until it was stripped from him. Prince Andrew's reputation collapsed under threat of scandals. From his ties to Jeffrey Epstein to the damaging Newsnight interview that exposed arrogance instead of accountability to the leg of settlement that followed. Where the Duchess slipped into ordinary life with dignity, Andrew dragged the royal memento controversy. This contrast mattered at her funeral. On a day meant for respect, Andrew's behavior, the staring, the faint smirks, the failed attempt to push into conversations base him an insult not just to his Nephewand, Catherine, but to the very woman being laid to rest. She had lived a life of quiet service. He had lived one of constant scandal. Too many watching, his behavior was more than disrespectful. It was shameful. And this is why Prince William's reaction was so firm. He went only standing by his wife in the face of Andrew's cold stare. He was defending the legacy of the Duchess, a woman who through sacrifice and humility strengthened the royal family's reputation at a time when others weakened it. Because in the House of Windsor, legacy is everything. The Duchess left behind a legacy of service, compassion, and faith. Andrew, by contrast, has left behind a trail of scandal, mistrust, and division. So when William refused even to acknowledge his uncle at the funeral, the meaning was clear. He was drawing a line. Andrew's actions were not just disrespectful. They dishonored a woman whose life had been better, nobler, and more devout than his. And for William, that was a line that could not be crossed. In that meant he stood twice. Once as a husband protecting Catherine, and once as the heir defending a woman who had spent her life shaping the royal family life for good. So, what do you think about Prince William and Prince Andrew's long-standing fight? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates.